When was the last time you sat alone, consumed by the stillness of your own pain? The world outside rushed on, oblivious, while you battled silently with a grief so profound it felt like it might shatter your very essence. Perhaps you cried quietly in the shadows, where no one could hear, the questions in your heart met only by the cold silence of an indifferent universe. You wake each day, not as a conqueror of life's challenges, but as a weary traveler, dragging a fragmented soul through battles no one seems to notice or care about. This solitude can feel crushing, an isolating truth that whispers to you in the dark. No one truly cares about your struggles. And yet, this stark reality contains a hidden power, a lesson as timeless as the philosophy of the ancient Stoics. For it is in accepting this truth, not resisting it, that you begin to understand your own strength. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced trials few of us can imagine, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words are not merely advice but a lifeline, guiding us to shift our focus from the uncontrollable chaos of the world to the vast, untapped resilience within ourselves. In this moment of realization, Stoicism offers a path forward, not a cure for the indifference of the world, but a framework for thriving despite it. This is not about cultivating resentment toward others or hardening yourself against every relationship. Instead, it is about freeing yourself from the chains of expectation and external validation, learning to navigate life with a profound sense of inner calm and self-reliance. The lessons of Stoic philosophy do not promise to soften the blows of life, but they do equip us with the mindset to endure them with grace. They teach us to transform isolation into strength, chaos into clarity, and solitude into a space where self-worth flourishes independent of anyone else's approval. In a world that rarely stops to see the battles we fight, Stoicism reminds us, you don't need anyone to recognize your worth because it already resides within you. 1. Breaking free from the illusion of approval. Life often entangles us in relationships where we pour our heart and energy into others, believing that our devotion will be reciprocated. Yet, how many times have you given endlessly, only to be met with indifference or silence? Whether it's a friendship that feels one-sided, a family bond weighed down by unmet expectations, or a romantic connection where your love is taken for granted, these imbalanced relationships leave us depleted, questioning our worth. But here lies a truth that the ancient Stoics understood. The approval you seek from others is an illusion, a mirage that will never truly satisfy. Stoic philosophy urges us to shift our focus inward, where true freedom resides. As Epictetus profoundly observed, men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. It is not the neglect or indifference of others that harms us. It is our attachment to the idea that their recognition is essential to our happiness. This attachment chains us, making us dependent on external validation and vulnerable to the whims of others. By releasing this illusion, we reclaim control over our inner world. Imagine finding yourself in a meeting where your contributions are dismissed, or in a friendship where your efforts go unnoticed. Frustration may naturally arise, but through the lens of Stoicism, you begin to see these moments as opportunities to practice strength. Instead of reacting with anger or despair, you cultivate a calm detachment. You realize that your value is not diminished by someone else's inability to see it. Like a towering oak in a storm, you remain steadfast, rooted in your self-worth, unshaken by the winds of external opinion. Letting go of the need for approval does not mean closing yourself off from others or becoming indifferent to relationships. Rather, it is an act of profound self-respect. It is a declaration that you are whole and complete as you are, regardless of whether others acknowledge it. This freedom allows you to live authentically, pursuing personal goals and nurturing relationships that are built on mutual respect and genuine care. Consider the journey of a solitary artist creating in obscurity. Without the applause of an audience, they press on, driven by their inner vision and passion. It is this quiet perseverance, untethered to external judgment, that epitomizes the Stoic ideal of self-reliance. Their work is not less valuable because it lacks an immediate crowd. It holds intrinsic worth, just as you do. To break free from the illusion of approval is not easy, but it is transformative. When you stop seeking recognition from others, you uncover a deeper truth. Your worth has always existed, untarnished and unshaken, within yourself. This is the foundation of true freedom. A life lived not for the fleeting applause of others, but for the enduring fulfillment of your own principles and values. 2. The hidden cost of always being available. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to how useful we are to others. Whether it's earning praise from parents, excelling in school, or accommodating friends, we learn to equate availability with value. This habit often carries into adulthood, where we constantly prioritize others' needs at the expense of our own well-being. But this self-sacrificing behavior comes with a hidden cost, a gradual erosion of self-respect and inner peace. Stoicism challenges us to confront this pattern and reclaim our autonomy. Consider how often you've said yes to requests, even when your heart screamed no. Perhaps a colleague asks for help with a project, or a friend calls at an inconvenient time, and you comply, fearing that saying no might lead to rejection or disapproval. The emotional toll of always being available is subtle yet profound. It drains your energy and leaves you feeling undervalued, as if your existence revolves solely around meeting others' demands. The Stoics remind us that this cycle is not sustainable. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on the nature of control, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To break free from this cycle, you must first recognize that your worth is not dependent on how much you give to others. It resides in your ability to honor your own needs and set boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. Imagine the story of Sarah, a dedicated employee who always goes above and beyond to support her team. Whenever someone needs help, Sarah drops everything, even sacrificing her personal time. Yet, when Sarah faces her own challenges, she notices a stark silence. No one offers the same level of support she so freely gives. This realization is painful, but it becomes a turning point. Inspired by the wisdom of Stoicism, Sarah begins to prioritize her own needs, learning to say no without guilt. Over time, she discovers that her self-respect grows when she values her time and energy. Saying no doesn't mean abandoning kindness or becoming selfish. Instead, it's a declaration that your emotional and mental well-being matter just as much as anyone else's. When you stop making yourself unconditionally available, you create space for relationships where respect and mutual support thrive. Like a sculptor shaping a masterpiece, you refine your life by carving away what doesn't serve you, revealing a stronger, more authentic self. The truth is, people tend to respect what they cannot easily access. By setting boundaries, you teach others to value your time and presence. More importantly, you remind yourself that you are not merely a resource for others to use, but a person deserving of care and consideration, starting with your own. This practice of self-respect, rooted in Stoic philosophy, is not a rejection of connection but an embrace of balance. It is a vital step toward reclaiming your life and building a foundation of resilience and inner peace. 3. Why you deserve more than one-sided relationships. Life often places us in relationships where the balance of effort is painfully skewed. You give generously, your time, your energy, your emotions. Yet the other side remains indifferent, offering little in return. Whether it's a friend who vanishes when you need support, a partner who takes your love for granted, or even family members who only acknowledge you when it suits them, These one-sided connections can leave you feeling hollow. But Stoic philosophy offers a liberating truth. You do not have to endure relationships that deplete you. Painful as it may be, letting go of these imbalanced ties is the first step toward reclaiming your strength and self-worth. The Stoics understood that adversity, while uncomfortable, is also a teacher. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The pain of abandonment or neglect, though agonizing, can illuminate a path toward growth. It forces you to confront what you truly value and to recognize your inherent dignity, untethered from the approval or reciprocation of others. Imagine standing before a collapsing bridge, a metaphor for a one-sided relationship. The bridge is unsafe, riddled with cracks from years of neglect. Crossing it again and again only places you in greater danger. Yet, when it finally crumbles, you are given a choice. Lament its loss or see the opportunity to build something stronger. Letting go of a decaying bridge isn't a defeat. It's a chance to construct a new path, leading to connections built on mutual respect and understanding. Consider David, a man who spent years investing in a friendship that was largely one-sided. He was always the one to reach out, to plan gatherings, to offer help. But when he faced a personal crisis, his friend was nowhere to be found. At first, David felt betrayed, his efforts seemingly wasted. But through reflection, guided by Stoic teachings, he came to see this as a pivotal moment. The loss of that friendship wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a deeper commitment to himself. David redirected his energy toward relationships that enriched his life, rather than drained it. Letting go of one-sided relationships doesn't mean giving up on people or isolating yourself. Instead, it's an act of courage and self-respect. It's a decision to value your own time and energy, to invest in connections that uplift rather than exhaust you. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires introspection and a willingness to endure discomfort. But with every step, you build resilience and reclaim control over your emotional well-being. The Stoics remind us that pain is not the enemy. It is a tool for growth. When you let go of relationships that no longer serve you, you create space for those who truly value and support you. You discover that your worth was never tied to how much you gave or how much others reciprocated. It has always been yours, unshaken and whole. And with this realization, you are free to build a life rooted in genuine connection and unyielding self-respect. 4. How to stop making yourself available to people who don't care. Have you ever felt the quiet exhaustion that comes from constantly giving to those who rarely give back? It's not merely a fleeting disappointment, but a deeper sense of imbalance. A realization that your time and energy are being drained without reciprocation. This isn't just about others taking advantage. It's about the unspoken message you send when you're always available, that your needs, time, and emotions are secondary. Stoicism offers a profound antidote. Reclaim your autonomy by setting boundaries that honor your self-worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The act of making yourself constantly available, especially to those who do not value you, surrenders this power. You hand over control of your energy and emotions to others, becoming trapped in a cycle of one-sided giving. Breaking free from this pattern requires a fundamental shift, realizing that your worth does not hinge on how much you do for others, but on how much you respect yourself. Picture this scenario. You're part of a social circle that only contacts you when they need something, a favor, advice, or simply someone to fill an empty seat. Each time you comply, a part of you hopes this act will strengthen the bond, but deep down, you know the connection lacks mutual respect. One day, you decide to decline an invitation, choosing instead to spend your evening immersed in a personal project or a moment of quiet reflection. Initially, this choice feels uncomfortable, even lonely. But over time, you discover an unexpected clarity. By valuing your own time, you've reclaimed a piece of yourself that had been lost. Stoicism teaches us that setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but one of profound self-respect. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you choose to prioritize your needs and establish clear limits, you send a powerful message to others and to yourself that your time and energy are not commodities to be taken for granted. Boundaries are not walls that isolate. They are bridges that connect you more meaningfully to relationships that truly matter. This shift in mindset transforms how you view relationships. It's no longer about pleasing everyone or fearing rejection. It's about nurturing connections that align with your values. And while it may mean letting go of certain people, it also creates space for those who genuinely care to enter your life. Like pruning a tree to encourage healthier growth, you trim away what stunts your potential, allowing your inner strength and dignity to flourish. True freedom comes when you no longer feel compelled to say yes to preserve relationships that don't serve you. Instead, you begin to live with a calm confidence, knowing that your worth is not defined by the demands of others, but by the unshakable foundation of your own self-respect. By embracing this Stoic principle, you cultivate a life filled with purpose, balance, and connections that enrich rather than exhaust. 5. Attracting the right people into your life. At some point, we all come to realize that the quality of our relationships defines the quality of our lives. Yet, how often do we hold on to connections that drain us, fearing that letting go will leave us empty? The truth, as the Stoics teach, is that meaningful relationships are not about quantity but authenticity. When we shift our focus from seeking approval to living in alignment with our core values, we naturally attract people who genuinely support and inspire us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This Stoic wisdom is a call to action. It reminds us that we do not find the right people by chasing them or bending ourselves to fit their expectations. Instead, we cultivate meaningful connections by becoming the kind of person who embodies the values we seek in others. Loyalty, respect, and mutual growth are not traits you demand. They are traits you reflect, and in doing so, you draw like-minded individuals into your life. Consider Emily, a young professional who felt trapped in a social circle where her worth was measured solely by what she could provide. Whether it was planning events, offering advice, or lending an ear, Emily gave tirelessly, hoping her efforts would secure her place. But when a personal crisis left her in need of support, she was met with indifference. Disillusioned but determined, Emily embraced Stoic principles. Instead of clinging to relationships that undervalued her, she began focusing on her passions, her love for art and storytelling. Through her dedication to her own growth, she encountered people who shared her interests, values, and dreams. These new connections were not transactional but transformative, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. This shift is not without challenges. Letting go of undeserving relationships can feel like stepping into the unknown. But Stoicism teaches us that this discomfort is a necessary part of growth. By releasing what no longer serves you, you create space for connections that truly matter. Imagine a garden where weeds once thrived. Only by clearing them away can the flowers bloom. Attracting the right people into your life is not about manipulation or strategy. It is about authenticity, living in alignment with your principles and honoring your own worth. When you stop wasting energy on superficial relationships, you discover the profound peace that comes from surrounding yourself with those who uplift and inspire you. As the Stoics remind us, you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control the standards you set for your relationships. In doing so, you build a life filled with connections that not only reflect your values, but also encourage you to become the best version of yourself. This is not selfishness. It is self-respect, and it is the foundation for a life of purpose and fulfillment. 6. Taking control of your relationships. In every relationship, there comes a moment of reflection, a quiet question that lingers in your mind. Why am I truly attached to this person? Is it a bond built on genuine care, or is it fear? Fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, or fear of losing what feels familiar? Stoic philosophy encourages us to confront these motivations honestly, for it is only through understanding our emotions that we can take control of our relationships and live in alignment with our values. Epictetus reminds us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This wisdom is particularly relevant when it comes to relationships. Often, our attachments are rooted in conditions. We expect others to meet our emotional needs, to validate our worth, or to behave in ways that align with our desires. But these expectations are fragile foundations. They place our happiness in the hands of others, leaving us vulnerable to disappointment and frustration. True freedom begins when we shift our focus from controlling others to mastering our own responses. Consider Rachel, a woman deeply invested in a friendship with someone who frequently let her down. Each time her friend canceled plans or failed to show support, Rachel felt a growing resentment. Yet, upon reflecting through the lens of Stoicism, she realized that her frustration stemmed not from her friend's actions, but from her own unmet expectations. Rachel began to approach the friendship differently, not with demands or anger, but with a sense of calm detachment. She set healthy boundaries, stopped seeking validation, and accepted her friend for who they were, flaws and all. This shift not only brought Rachel peace, but also transformed the dynamic of their friendship into one based on mutual respect rather than unspoken obligations. Taking control of your relationships does not mean severing ties or abandoning those you care about. It means fostering connections that are rooted in genuine care, not conditional attachment. Care is selfless. It asks for nothing in return and allows others to be themselves. Attachment, on the other hand, is often driven by fear and expectation, creating imbalance and dependency. The Stoics teach us that relationships thrive when they are built on understanding and freedom rather than control. When you release the need to change others or seek their approval, you create space for authenticity to flourish. You also free yourself from the emotional turmoil of unmet expectations, finding instead a deep and abiding peace within yourself. Ask yourself, am I holding on to this relationship because it enriches my life, or because I fear letting go? This question is not meant to provoke guilt, but to inspire clarity. By aligning your relationships with your values and taking responsibility for your own emotions, you cultivate connections that bring growth and joy rather than pain and frustration. Taking control of your relationships is not about dominance. It is about balance. It is the art of navigating human connection with wisdom, grace, and an unwavering commitment to your own inner peace. Through this practice, you not only honor yourself, but also create the conditions for deeper, more meaningful bonds with others. 7. Building healthy, balanced connections. Healthy relationships are not built on grand gestures or endless sacrifices, but on the quiet strength of mutual respect and shared values. Yet, many of us fall into the trap of giving more than we receive, hoping to secure affection or approval. Over time, this imbalance erodes our self-esteem, leaving us feeling drained and unfulfilled. Stoicism offers a transformative perspective. True connections are cultivated not through constant availability, but through thoughtful balance and intentional care. Epictetus wrote, "Keep company only with those who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." This advice serves as a guide for discerning which relationships enrich our lives and which weigh us down. A healthy connection doesn't demand your constant attention or effort. Instead, it provides a space where both parties feel valued, heard, and supported. Such relationships foster growth, not dependency, and are sustained by genuine care rather than obligation. Imagine Claire, a young entrepreneur who constantly prioritized the needs of her friends over her own. Whenever someone needed advice, financial help, or even a sympathetic ear, Claire was the first to step in. But when Claire's business faced challenges, she found herself alone, her friends seemingly uninterested in returning the support she had so freely given. It was a painful realization, but also a moment of clarity. Inspired by Stoic philosophy, Claire began to reevaluate her relationships. She stopped overextending herself for those who took her for granted and focused instead on building connections with people who shared her values and reciprocated her efforts. This shift required Claire to set boundaries, an act that initially felt uncomfortable but ultimately became empowering. She learned that saying no is not an act of rejection but a declaration of self-respect. With time, she surrounded herself with individuals who genuinely valued her for who she was, not just for what she could provide. These balanced connections brought her a sense of peace and fulfillment she had never experienced before. Building healthy relationships doesn't mean severing every imperfect tie or isolating yourself. It means prioritizing those connections that align with your values and bring mutual growth. It requires the courage to let go of relationships that no longer serve you and the wisdom to invest in those that do. Like a well-tended garden, healthy relationships thrive when nurtured with intention and care. Stoicism teaches us that the foundation of any strong relationship is self-respect. When you honor your own needs and establish boundaries, you create the conditions for deeper, more meaningful connections. You stop seeking validation from others and instead attract relationships rooted in authenticity and mutual respect. In doing so, you not only enrich your own life but also inspire others to bring their best selves to the table. Healthy, balanced connections are not about perfection but alignment. They are about creating spaces where both individuals can grow, support, and thrive together. By embracing this Stoic principle, you build a life filled with relationships that uplift rather than exhaust, bringing harmony and purpose to your journey. 8. The power of emotional detachment. At first glance, the idea of emotional detachment might seem cold, even unfeeling. Yet, in the context of Stoic philosophy, detachment is not about abandoning your emotions. It's about mastering them. It's the ability to separate your sense of self-worth from the actions, opinions, and judgments of others. This practice does not diminish your capacity for care. Rather, it empowers you to engage in relationships with clarity, strength, and freedom from unnecessary pain. Epictetus wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Emotional detachment begins with this fundamental truth. You cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. By releasing the need for approval, recognition, or loyalty from those who do not value you, you reclaim your autonomy. Detachment is not about giving up on relationships. It's about letting go of expectations that create imbalance and suffering. Imagine John, a teacher deeply dedicated to his students and colleagues. For years, he invested immense effort into fostering a supportive community, only to feel overlooked when his own struggles went unnoticed. At first, this neglect filled him with resentment, but through Stoic reflection, John realized his frustration stemmed from his own expectations. He began to approach his relationships differently, not by withdrawing entirely, but by shifting his focus inward. By detaching from the need for external acknowledgement, John discovered a profound sense of peace. He continued to care for his students and colleagues, but no longer relied on their validation to feel fulfilled. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you learn to care in a way that does not compromise your inner peace. It allows you to give generously without becoming depleted, to love deeply without becoming dependent, and to invest in relationships without being controlled by them. This balance is the essence of freedom, a freedom rooted in self-reliance and emotional resilience. The power of detachment lies in its ability to transform how you perceive the world. When you let go of expectations, you free yourself from the cycle of disappointment and resentment. Instead of being weighed down by what others fail to give, you focus on what you can control, your own actions, thoughts, and values. This shift doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you unshakable. Detachment is not a rejection of connection, but a redefinition of it. It allows you to approach relationships with authenticity and strength, ensuring that your emotions are guided by your principles rather than the fleeting actions of others. This practice is not easy. It requires discipline, reflection, and patience, but its rewards are profound. By mastering the art of emotional detachment, you gain the ability to engage in life fully, without losing yourself in the process. Through this lens, you uncover a deeper truth. Your happiness has always been within your control. 9. Embracing self-love and self-worth. True self-love is neither indulgence nor arrogance. It is the quiet recognition of your intrinsic value, independent of external validation. Yet, in a world that constantly demands proof of our worth through achievements, relationships, or social approval, embracing self-worth can feel like an act of rebellion. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the foundation of a fulfilling life lies in this inner strength, the unwavering belief that your value is inherent and unshakable. Marcus Aurelius urged, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This wisdom is a cornerstone of self-love. When you anchor your sense of worth in your own principles and values, rather than the fleeting opinions of others, you liberate yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking external approval. Self-love becomes a source of resilience, enabling you to navigate life's challenges with grace and confidence. Consider Maria, an artist who spent years trying to gain recognition for her work. Every rejection from galleries felt like a personal failure, and every criticism gnawed at her confidence. Her self-worth was entangled with the opinions of others, leaving her vulnerable to every high and low. Inspired by Stoic teachings, Maria began to shift her perspective. She stopped measuring her success by others' standards and started creating art for herself, driven by her own passion and vision. This transformation not only deepened her connection to her craft, but also allowed her to see her worth as something independent of external validation. Self-love, however, is not about isolation or self-centeredness. It is about building a strong foundation within yourself so that you can engage with the world authentically. When you love and respect yourself, you set boundaries that protect your peace, invest in relationships that uplift you, and pursue goals that align with your values, not those imposed by others. This inner strength becomes a guiding force, allowing you to face rejection or criticism without losing sight of your worth. The Stoics understood that self-worth is not a gift granted by others, but a realization cultivated within. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, you reclaim your power. You stop relying on others to define your value and start living in alignment with your true self. This shift not only brings inner peace, but also creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to treat you with the same respect and care that you show yourself. Embracing self-love is not a destination but a journey, one that requires patience, reflection, and commitment. It is a practice of returning to yourself again and again when the world tries to pull you away. Through this journey, you discover a profound truth. You have always been enough. By embracing your self-worth, you unlock the freedom to live fully, unburdened by the expectations of others, and rooted firmly in the strength of your own being. 10. How to set boundaries and protect your energy. In a world overflowing with demands and expectations, setting boundaries is one of the most profound acts of self-respect. Yet, it is also one of the hardest. We fear that saying no will disappoint others or cause conflict, so we sacrifice our peace to meet their needs. But Stoic philosophy teaches that your energy is finite, and protecting it is not selfish, it is essential. Boundaries are the invisible walls that guard your emotional well-being and allow you to live in harmony with your values. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Setting boundaries begins with this realization. Your time and energy are yours to give, not others to take. When you allow others to overstep your limits, you surrender control of your life. But when you define and enforce boundaries, you reclaim your power and create a space where your priorities and values can thrive. Consider Alex, a dedicated professional who constantly found himself overcommit. He would say yes to every project, stay late to help colleagues, and accept every social invitation out of a sense of obligation. Over time, this relentless availability left him burned out and resentful. Inspired by Stoic principles, Alex began to reassess his commitments. He realized that by overextending himself, he was neglecting his own needs. Slowly, he learned to say no without guilt and to prioritize his time in alignment with what truly mattered to him. The result was not only renewed energy, but also a deeper sense of fulfillment in his work and relationships. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others. It's about respecting yourself. It's a way of reminding the world and yourself that your time and energy are valuable. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you. When you consistently prioritize your well-being, you establish a standard of respect that others will learn to honor. This practice requires courage. Saying no may initially feel uncomfortable, especially if you're accustomed to pleasing others. But Stoicism reminds us that discomfort is a necessary part of growth. By enduring the temporary unease of setting boundaries, you gain the lasting reward of inner peace and balance. Over time, you'll find that the people who truly respect and care for you will understand and support your decisions. Protecting your energy is not about isolation. It's about intention. It's choosing to invest in what aligns with your values and to let go of what drains or diminishes you. Through this practice, you create a life where your energy fuels growth, joy, and meaningful connections rather than exhaustion. Stoic philosophy calls us to this higher standard of living, where boundaries are not barriers but bridges to a more authentic and fulfilling existence. 11. Understanding attachment versus care. At the heart of many of life's struggles lies a simple but profound misunderstanding: the difference between attachment and care. Attachment often disguises itself as love, but it is rooted in expectations, demands, and conditions. Care, on the other hand, is free of these burdens. It flows naturally, untainted by the need to control or possess. Understanding this distinction is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, offering clarity and peace in a world filled with emotional entanglements. Epictetus taught, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." This wisdom reveals the essence of attachment. It is not born from the actions of others, but from our own unmet expectations. Attachment seeks to fill a void, tying our happiness to the behavior or presence of another. Care, by contrast, requires nothing in return. It is an act of giving without the weight of expectation, allowing both you and the other person to remain free. Imagine Laura, who finds herself frustrated with a friend who rarely returns her calls or initiates plans. She interprets this behavior as a lack of appreciation, growing resentful and hurt. But through reflection inspired by Stoic principles, Laura realizes that her pain stems not from her friend's actions, but from her own attachment to an ideal of what the friendship should be. By letting go of these expectations, Laura shifts her perspective. She continues to care for her friend, but she no longer depends on their actions for her own sense of worth. This transformation not only eases her frustration, but also allows the friendship to exist without strain or resentment. Care is liberating. It acknowledges that we cannot control others, nor should we try. Instead, we focus on our own actions, offering kindness, support, and understanding without tying our happiness to the outcome. This approach does not mean tolerating disrespect or neglect. It means setting boundaries while maintaining compassion. It is the balance between valuing yourself and valuing others, free of the chains of expectation. Stoicism teaches us that attachment often leads to suffering because it binds us to things outside our control. Care, however, aligns with the Stoic ideal of focusing on what we can govern, our own thoughts and actions. By replacing attachment with care, you not only free yourself from unnecessary pain, but also create relationships that are more authentic and harmonious. The distinction between attachment and care is not always easy to grasp, but it is transformative. It shifts your perspective from one of dependence to one of strength, from frustration to understanding. In embracing care over attachment, you discover a profound truth. The most meaningful relationships are those built on mutual respect and freedom, not control or expectation. This wisdom allows you to navigate the complexities of human connection with grace, resilience, and a deeper sense of peace. 12. Recognizing toxic patterns in your life. Life often unfolds in cycles, patterns that repeat themselves without us even noticing. Some patterns nurture growth, while others slowly corrode our sense of self-worth. One of the most insidious toxic patterns is the endless pursuit of external validation. We chase praise, approval, and recognition, believing they will fill the void within us. Yet, like trying to catch the wind, this pursuit is futile, leaving us exhausted and unfulfilled. Recognizing and breaking free from these toxic patterns is essential to living a life aligned with the principles of Stoicism. The Stoics remind us, no man is free who is not master of himself. When we allow external validation to dictate our self-worth, we relinquish our freedom. We become dependent on others' opinions, letting their fleeting judgments shape how we perceive ourselves. This dependence is not only exhausting but also disempowering. True strength comes from within, a quiet confidence rooted in our values, not in how others respond to us. Take Emily, a bright and ambitious professional who constantly sought her manager's approval. Every compliment felt like a victory, while every critique sent her spiraling into self-doubt. Her happiness became tethered to external feedback, leaving her in a perpetual state of emotional turbulence. One day, after a particularly difficult meeting, Emily turned to Stoic philosophy for guidance. She began to see that her worth was not something others could grant or take away. By focusing on the quality of her work and the integrity of her actions, she slowly reclaimed her self-confidence. The opinions of others no longer held the power to define her. Recognizing toxic patterns in your life requires courage and self-awareness. It demands that you confront uncomfortable truths about how you seek validation and why. Do you constantly compare yourself to others? Do you adjust your behavior to gain approval, even at the expense of your values? These questions are not meant to provoke guilt, but to illuminate areas where you can grow. Breaking free from toxic patterns does not mean you reject relationships or feedback. It means you put them in their proper place. You stop relying on external factors to affirm your worth and instead cultivate a sense of self grounded in your principles. This shift allows you to approach life with clarity and purpose, unburdened by the need for constant affirmation. The Stoics understood that freedom begins in the mind. When you let go of toxic patterns, you reclaim your autonomy. You realize that your worth is not conditional on others' perceptions, but is inherent, unshaken by praise or criticism. This realization transforms not only how you view yourself, but also how you navigate the world. You become less reactive, more grounded, and infinitely more resilient. In recognizing and dismantling toxic patterns, you take a powerful step toward living a life of authenticity and inner peace. You free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval and instead embrace a path of self-reliance and true freedom. Through this journey, you uncover a profound truth. Your worth has always been within you, waiting for you to see it clearly. Conclusion. As we journey through life, it becomes clear that the world's indifference is not a curse but an invitation. An invitation to turn inward, to cultivate strength, and to find meaning within ourselves. Stoicism reminds us that the key to a fulfilled life lies not in the approval or recognition of others, but in the unwavering foundation of our own values. The power to live with purpose and resilience resides within you, waiting to be unlocked. The Stoics did not promise an easy path. They acknowledged that life is fraught with challenges, relationships that test us, moments of isolation, and struggles that feel overwhelming. But they also knew that these hardships are opportunities. Each obstacle is a chance to grow stronger, to refine your character, and to discover the profound peace that comes from aligning your actions with your principles. Take a moment to reflect. What would your life look like if you stopped seeking validation from others? How much lighter would you feel if you let go of toxic patterns, embraced healthy connections, and lived with self-reliance and authenticity? The answers lie within your grasp. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the architect of your own freedom. If these ideas resonate with you, know that this is only the beginning. Stoicism is not just a philosophy but a way of life, offering timeless wisdom to help you navigate modern challenges. Together, we can continue exploring these transformative principles and uncovering the strength that lies within. If you found value in this journey, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you join a community dedicated to growth, resilience, and the pursuit of wisdom. Your journey matters, and together, we can forge a path toward a life of purpose and peace. Thank you for watching, reflecting, and taking steps toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Until next time, remember, the power to change your life is already within you. Step forward and claim it.